In 1914, millions of young men across Europe enlisted with patriotic fervor, believing the war would be short and heroic. Governments promised glory, and recruits wore crisp uniforms adorned with flowers from cheering crowds. Trains carried them to the front, where optimism still lingered. Little did they know, industrial warfare would shatter these illusions. By December 1914, casualty rates already exceeded 500,000, foreshadowing the carnage ahead. Upon reaching the Western Front, soldiers faced a nightmarish landscape. Endless trenches snaking through mud, tangled barbed wire, and the constant thunder of artillery miles away. The stench of decay and chlorine hung in the air. Many realized their training was useless here. By 1915, trench systems stretched over 475 miles, from the Swiss border to the North Sea, trapping armies in a deadly stalemate. Artillery barrages defined trench warfare, with some bombardments lasting days. The earth shook as shells exploded at 20 per minute, each delivering 100 pounds of high explosives. Soldiers buried alive or blown apart became routine. By 1916, artillery caused 70% of casualties. The psychological toll was immense. Men whimpered or laughed hysterically, their nerves shattered by the relentless noise and fear. Medical stations overflowed with mangled bodies. Amputations were common due to infected wounds from shrapnel. Morphine shortages left men screaming as medics worked by candlelight. At the Battle of the Somme, 1916, 20,000 British soldiers died on the first day alone. Corpses piled up in trenches, often unburied for weeks, attracting rats that grew as large as cats. Between battles, soldiers endured relentless misery. Trench foot, a fungal infection from damp boots, swelled feet until gangrene set in. Lice infestations caused trench fever, while rats gnawed at the dead. Men slept standing up to avoid drowning in mud. A British soldier's diary noted, "We are not soldiers, but living corpses." By 1917, morale plummeted as mutinies spread. Orders to go over the top meant near certain death. Machine guns fired 600 rounds per minute, cutting down waves of men. At Passchendaele 1917, advancing troops sank waist-deep in mud, becoming easy targets. Survival often depended on tripping over a corpse and playing dead. One German machine gunner later wrote, "We felt like murderers, not soldiers." Doctors initially dismissed shell shock as cowardice. Victims trembled uncontrollably, lost speech, or stared vacantly. By 1918, over 80,000 British troops were diagnosed. Treatments ranged from electroshock therapy to execution for desertion. One nurse described patients rocking like infants, their minds broken. This marked the first recognition of PTSD, though it would take decades to understand. Chlorine gas, introduced in 1915, caused lungs to dissolve. Later, mustard gas blistered skin and blinded eyes. Gas masks became lifelines, but many failed. At Ypres, clouds of yellow-green poison drifted for miles. One survivor recalled, "Men drowned in their own blood." By 1918, chemical weapons had killed 90,000 and injured 1.2 million, leaving lifelong scars. Winter brought hypothermia. Temperatures plunged to -30 degrees 2020, freezing sentries to death at their posts. Ice-coated rifles rendering them useless. Soldiers burned furniture for warmth, but frostbite claimed fingers and toes. At Verdun 1916, frozen corpses were used as makeshift barricades. One diary entry read, "The cold is a slower, crueler enemy than bullets." By 1918, survivors were hollow shells. Replacements, some as young as 15, arrived to fill gaps left by the dead. Mutinies erupted in French and German ranks. The Spanish flu pandemic compounded the despair, killing more than battle wounds. When the armistice came on November 11th, few celebrated. A British officer wrote, "We won, but there's no joy here. Only relief that it's over."